Alright, trickies and trickers, well, it's time for the final episode review of the day, which is Shakaar. On Deep Space Nine, Commander Sisko is playing darts with Chief Miles O'Brien and Quarks. Sisko loses the match, with O'Brien stating he is in the zone and cannot lose. Sisko then gets called by Jadzia Dax to come to Ops. Sisko then visits Major Kira's quarters. He says that she has been praying inquiries about the lamp she has lit in her shrine. She explains that it is a Duranja, or lamp for the dead. She reveals that she has been praying for the deceased Vedic Boreliantos. Then Sisko drops a bombshell on her. Kalema Pren has died of a heart attack in his sleep, and her arch enemy, Kaiwen Adami, was appointed the new First Minister of Bajor. Odo is talking to Kira in the wardroom about various station issues. Odo notices Kira seems distracted, and she talks about her concerns with Lewin being both First Minister and Kai, including the fact that no other candidates are willing to oppose Wynn in the upcoming elections. Odo notes that the Bajoran people don't share her skepticism and see Wynn as a hero who made peace with Cardassia. Kira feels that once Wynn gets power, she won't let it go. She wishes other Bajorans could see this as clearly as she and Odo can. After the meeting, Kira is again praying in her quarters when the chime rings. It is Kai Wen. After an exchange about Kira's prayer and the fact that Wen has made no mention of Borelli's involvement in achieving the peace treaty with Cardassia, Wen states the reason for her visit. She needs Kira's help. Wen explains that the Rakantha province, formerly one of the most productive agricultural regions of Bajor, had, like most of its planet, its soil poisoned by the Cardassians during the occupation and rendered unstable for agriculture. To cleanse the soil, the Bajoran Agricultural Ministry developed soil reclamators to remove the poisons. The government wants to use them in the Rakantha to allow agriculture to resume there and be able to grow more botan, marika, and salam grass for export, believing that the increased interstellar commerce will enhance Bajor's application to join the Federation in a few years. Kira doesn't understand what this has to do with her, and Wynn explains that some farmers in her province of Dakur have refused to turn over the reclamators to the government to be used in Rakantha. Wynn further states that the leader of the farmers in Dakur is none other than Shakaar Idon, her former resistance leader. Wynn was scared to convince Shakaar to hand over the reclamators. Kira is skeptical about helping Wynn do anything, but Wynn asks her to act for the greater good of Bajor despite any personal feelings. Kira does eventually agree to speak to Shakaar, but makes no promises. Kira beams down to Dakur province near a farm. It clearly has seen better days, with dry barren soil everywhere. She approaches him to determine if anyone is there, but a hand on her back startles her. It is Shakaar. After some pleasantries, they go inside. Shakaar mentions that their fellow resistance members, Farella and Lupaza, will arrive in a couple hours. It tells Kira that he knows why she is there and needs time to think about it. Meanwhile, back on DS9, O'Brien beats Dax at darts for his 46th victory in a row. Quark states that he will take bets on the next challenger at 10-1, without even knowing who the challenger is. As he leaves, O'Brien mentions he would like to go kayaking in the holosuite, but Quark convinces him to work to maintain his streak, with O'Brien stating that Quark should make the odds 15-1. Back on Bajor, Kira, Shakaar, Lupaza, and Farrell are sharing stories about their time in the Resistance, including an explanation of why Farrell did not replace his lost left arm. Eventually, the subject of the reclamators comes up, and while Shakaar states he is still considering the matter, Lupaza makes her feelings clear that they should not be returned until they are finished with them. Going outside the farmhouse, Kira points out to Shakaar that the situation is not going to go away and that he needs to think about what is best for Bajor. Shakaar explains his side, that after 3 years of being on a waiting list, the government finally gave the reclamators to them and said they could have them for at least a year. Once First Minister Kalem died, the return to the government after only 2 months of use was ordered. Kira tells about the Rakantha farming project and the possibility that Bajor could be exporting again, but he says they need the reclamators to feed themselves. Kira asks Shakaar to meet with Wynn to explain that to her and possibly work out a compromise. While skeptical, he agrees to as a personal favor to Kira. Kira then meets with Kai Wen in the First Minister's office. When it's angered that Kira did not convince Shakaar to immediately return the reclamators. Kira explains that she arranged a meeting with Shakaar to hear his side and work out a compromise, and Wen says that she has little choice but agreed to participate. Wynn then tells Kira that she may return to DS9 after formally Shakaar for acceptance and rejects Kira's request to stay. When Shakaar is home, he tells Kira he was willing to hear Wynn out, but will not give back the reclamators. Kira tells him he must be flexible and that he may not win this fight, but Shakaar states that the Cardassians said the same thing. Just then, two Bajoran security officers enter the house to arrest Shakaar, which Kira obviously did not know about. Shakaar punches one officer and Kira hits the other. He tells her she does not have to fight with him, and that her attack can be explained away. But Kira said enough of Wynn's lying and wants to help Shakaar. In a cave with the weapons cache inside, Shakaar and Kira gather supplies on Varel. Lupasa then arrives to state that Shakaar's farm was seized and scanning equipment was brought to search for the reclamators. Reinforcements are requested from surrounding areas to search for the fugitives. She also states that several resistance cell members were detained for questioning, including Mobara, Klin, and Ornak. The others are heading for the Kola Mountain stronghold. Shakaar states that his plan is to keep running from the Bajoran civil police and reach the stronghold to meet with the others. They then move out. Meanwhile, O'Brien is playing darts against Savar, a Vulcan Starfleet officer. O'Brien is one bullseye away from winning, but before he can throw his dart, he reaches to find himself for Syntha from Quark, who probably pops his arm out of his shoulder. O'Brien tries to throw it anyway, but cannot, and has to leave for surgery with Bashir to fix the problem, thus forfeiting the game. Back on Bajor, sometime later, Sisko enters Wynn's office at her request, expressing surprise she will want his advice. She says that what she really wants is his help. The chase for Shakaar and his followers, for which Wynn ordered the Bajoran militia to take over, has joined his sympathy for his cause in many provinces. That forced Wynn to declare martial law and suspend local government in some areas, such as the Hill provinces, to contain civil disorder. Sisko encourages her to withdraw the militia from Dakur. Wynn says she will if Sisko provides a Federation security force to take their place, saying it would do so much to solidify the relations between the Federation and Bajor. For Federation law, Sisko refuses, saying this is a matter internal to Bajor. Wynn responds by saying that Bajor cannot depend on the Federation, though it draws application for entry into the Federation. Sisko calls that, and the time response to the situation, an overreaction, and that by using the militia against her own people, Wynn is risking a civil war over the mere possession of farm equipment. Wynn states that the issue is not farm equipment, but respect for the law and preventing anarchy and chaos. She first states that the prophets are testing her to see if she is worthy of the role they've given her as First Minister, Anne Kai, and she will accomplish her goals by any means necessary. Shakaar and his group are seen running down the slope of invading militia troops. Kira activates a device to redirect their life signs elsewhere to distract them. The group is tired of running. Shakaar decides to lead the troops into the Tanis Canyon to ambush them. Shakaar and the others are hiding on the canyon's ridgeline, watching the militia troops enter. Kira recognizes the commander of troops, Colonel Linaris Holm, former leader of the Ornathia resistance cell whom she met a year ago at a reception in the capital. Shakaar gives the order to pick targets and fire. He chooses Linaris and tells Kira to shoot a lieutenant. Neither of them can bring themselves to do it, however. Shakaar then stands up along with Kira approaches Linaris. They talk about the situation with Colonel Linaris' Pollock 5 raid during their occupation. Then Shakaar states that he wants to take his people out of the canyon. Before Linaris can respond, one of his men shoots at Varel. Linaris, Kira, and Shakaar work frantically to prevent anyone else from firing. Linaris has the shooter removed from the area and tells Shakaar what he wants is not possible. Kira points out they need to figure out how to get it done, or a civil war could result. Linaris then brings Shakaar and Kira to Wynn's office. Wynn is initially pleased, but becomes disappointed when Linaris tells her that they're not prisoners. Shakaar is there to enter the election as a candidate for First Minister. Linaris asks if the militia fully supports Shakaar doing so. Kira clarifies the effort is not a coup as Wynn believes, but a free and fair election. She also says that if Wynn chooses to remain in the race, the entire incident will be made public, and everyone will know how close to civil war Wynn brought them over farm equipment. Back on DS9, O'Brien's shoulder is good as new as he and Bashir are quirks testing out on a dartboard. However, his dart lands outside the bullseye. Bashir tells him to try again, but O'Brien says that he can feel he's out of the end zone and decides to go kayaking in the holosuite. Bashir then casually tosses the dart at the board, and it's a bullseye. Quark then welcomes Bashir to the zone and starts telling him of plans he's got for him. Kira returns to her quarters with Sisko, where she tells him that Wynn issued a statement of support for Shakaar and while a few other candidates enter the race, Shakaar is expected to easily win. Shakaar is expected to win easily due to his popularity. Once Cisco leaves, she goes to her Duranja and blows out the flame, finally moving past her grief over Borelli's death. Nice. And good, I guess. So, yeah, anyway. So now let's take a look at some trivia surrounding this episode. This episode marks the first appearance of Duncan Rhaegar Shakaar Eden. According to Wen, this episode takes place 3 months after the events of Life Support. The Bajoran phaser rifle appears for the first time. About 10 rifles are seen in the scene set on Bajor. William Lucking and Diane Salinger make their first appearances as Ferrell and Lupaza respectively in this episode. Ferrell and Lupaza were seen again in the 5th season's The Darkness and the Light. Ferrell later returned in Ties of Blood and Water in a flashback. John Kenton Skull later played Klingon Captain Katemang in the 4th season episode Return to Grace. Sherman Howard previously played Endar in the Star Trek The Next Generation 4th season episode Suddenly Human. Carrick Lofton does not appear in this episode. So overall, I think this episode is pretty darn good, and yeah, I do like the fact that Wynn kind of had that whole Shakaar running against her thing coming for her, so yeah. So overall, I give Shakaar 4 warp cores out of 5. Well, anyway, tune in next time as we take a look at the next episode, Facets. So, until then, live long and prosper, everybody.